Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. You know what's happening in just over a month, Robin? The biggest eating day of the year.
Oh, I love it. I look forward to it. I eat everything twice.
Have you ever gone to somebody's home and then you're having Thanksgiving at somebody else's home, and it's a different culture, or they bring something to the table you've never heard about? Maybe they're not a different culture. Maybe they learned something in the past year how to make.
Oh, I have.
Yeah.
I know you have too.
Yeah, I remember the first time I had spaghetti. No, I'm teasing. That wasn't it. So I'm learning a new word today. The book we have is called Sacred and Delicious. Neither of those are new words for me. However, Ayurvedic is. The book is called Sacred and Delicious, a modern Ayurvedic cookbook. And Robin had to ask Lisa Joy Mitchell how to pronounce that word, and then she told me how to pronounce that word. So I didn't know the word before. I still don't really know what it means, except it means like
book.
Life, knowledge of life or something is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Lisa Joy Mitchell is on the phone. She's a wellness mentor, a cooking instructor. She has studied, there's that word, Ayurvedic cooking since 1998. Did you say she's from Florence, South Carolina?
Yes.
Wow. Lisa Joy Mitchell. Good morning, Lisa.
Hi, good morning, Larry and Robin. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, you're teaching us something today.
Maybe. Let's find out.
So I am not very good when it comes to being bold with food. I look at the choices, and like I have not yet to this day had sushi. I still haven't had sushi.
I can understand that. Raw fish, that can be a stretch for people.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, you got that beautiful Southern accent. Where are you right now?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. I grew up in South Carolina. I spent 15 years in Texas, but I've been here in Raleigh now 20 years.
Wow.
21.
And how did you fare during Hurricane Florence? How did you?
Oh, thanks for asking. We were fine. Our house managed fine, and none of our gorgeous many trees in the woods behind our house fell on anybody. So we were very fortunate, but the state really took a beating.
So let's talk about the title of the book and then get deeper into the book. The book is called Sacred and Delicious. So the first word makes me wonder if there are any like religious origins to some of the food in the book.
I wouldn't say religious origins of the food at all, but the origin of the word being in the book is because food itself is sacred. If we believe life is sacred, then the food that sustains us is sacred. And there's a whole story about that title. I don't know if you want to hear it.
I do.
Okay, great. So when I first started creating recipes, I was using a working title called Healthy Comfort Food. And then one of my marketing whiz friends a few years into my project said, well, do you have the .com? And I went, oh, oops, I don't have it. And so I just started brainstorming, and it just rose up inside me, and they were beautiful words, sacred and delicious.
Oh, wow.
As an invitation. I took them as an invitation to explore my own sacred relationship with food. So the book took a whole nother turn in terms of writing, but the food remained the same because Ayurveda comes out of India, as you mentioned, and I didn't want to eat Indian food every day. There are a handful of traditional Indian-style recipes in the book, but a lot of the book is just American cuisine and some Southern-style cuisine, where I use the principles of balance that Ayurveda teaches, but with the kinds of foods that I find most delicious.
Really?
And that was very important to you because you said in your narrative you had health issues.
Yes. So when I was in my early 40s, my health really started tumbling. And I had everything from digestive issues. I had irritable bowel disease, acid reflux. I had a lot of chronic pain. So I also had a lot of sleep disorder. And my husband, who is a chiropractic physician, had already been studying Ayurveda and is now an Ayurvedic practitioner. He, at that time, was not doing Ayurvedic treatments in his office. So he suggested that I go to the Ayurvedic Institute in New Mexico, where one of the great Ayurvedic doctors and educators has set up the institute. And it was really life-changing for me, and it got my attention.
Wow. And so did it change all the things you just told us you were going through, the acid reflux and all that?
Yes. It didn't happen overnight, but even after I went for just a 5-day detox, my digestion started immediately to recover. And I began to study the Ayurvedic diet and change a few things, and over just a short period of time, my digestion really came back. Now, about 10 months later, I developed the first of 2 frozen shoulders, and that was when a really dramatic turnabout happened for me. It was excruciatingly painful. If anybody in your audience has ever had one, they know what I mean, and it lasts for months or years for some people.
I don't know what that is.
And so I went...
Frozen shoulder.
You don't know what that is?
No.
Well,
I don't either.
So a frozen shoulder means you have no range of motion.
Okay.
And excruciating pain. So I couldn't lift my arm even an inch.
Wow.
From my side. I had a very extreme case. And the doctors do not say they don't know the cause. What Ayurveda says is that it's the accumulation of toxins in the joint, because that stuff on your tongue, I hate to be a little bit gross on the radio, but when you scrape your tongue in the morning, there's that sticky substance.
Oh, yeah.
That substance is called ama in Ayurvedic language, but that means toxins. So those accumulated toxins from your digestive tract will travel through your system and deposit sometimes in the joints. So I was in excruciating pain. I went for a 5-day detox and some simple treatments, some oil massages and some wonderful things like that. And at the end of 5 days, my pain had been reduced by 80%. And
wow.
it just, I was so grateful. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted you to go a little bit more, explain more about the detox. Did it involve, you said something about oils, did it involve not eating certain things, or did it involve eating certain things? Did it involve bathing at all? Like we had somebody on, and I don't know that I believed it, but it had to do with putting your feet into something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I've heard about that. So I know what you're talking about.
What worked for you? Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Sure. So when you're doing what's called panchakarma in Ayurveda, which means 5 actions, you first of all, you cut out most of your regular diet and you go on what's called a mono diet. So you're eating very simple foods, and at the Ayurvedic Institute they suggest just one food, which is a lentil called split mung, a mung bean that is made even simpler and easier to digest by it being split and without skins. And it's cooked. Sometimes you can have a little rice with it, and sometimes they'll add a few simple vegetables like chard or kale, that sort of thing, maybe some squashes. And so you're eating this very simple food before you go and when you go and maybe another week after you go. And what happens during that period is that you're giving your stomach a rest. It's just like when you meditate, you give your mind a rest. Sometimes your digestion needs to take a rest. And then you start doing these treatments where through the massages they actually push the toxins into your colon, and then you release them from your colon. We don't need to go into details about that.
So
that's one of the pillars of Ayurveda, is this treatment process. But the other pillars of Ayurveda, the most important one is having the right diet and using the healing power of food and spices to begin to treat your body with the greatest love and and respect.
And you have such a variety of recipes in there. I mean, you grew up Jewish, then you were introduced to Southern cooking, and there are so many different types of foods that you were exposed to. You had to make sure that whatever you chose was good for your body.
Exactly. So that's why I started the book being called Healthy Comfort Food, because I wanted to eat all kinds of foods, but I did want to eat according to the principles of Ayurveda because I saw that it was working for me. And at 63, I feel so much better than I did at 43. I've just continued this process. And originally, I began creating recipes just for myself. And then, because it was working so well, I wanted to help other people avoid or manage or even reverse some chronic health conditions so that they don't have to suffer too.
So can we...
So the kind... Go.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I thought you were done. I just wondered if you could maybe help us out. Like, let's say I'm going to tell you what I'm going to have for lunch, and you can tell me what I should have instead, okay?
Well, I don't know that I can do that. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because Ayurveda says that not all food is good for everybody. So Ayurveda had the first body-mind type system, and which they developed 5,000 years ago. It's a real fascinating framework, by the way, that I found helped me connect the dots between why I had all these various health problems. And what's great, and so what's great, what's so cool about this system is that Ayurveda suggests that certain kinds of foods will support your type, or certain other foods may intensify or aggravate your symptoms.
You know, with your Jewish background, I have a question about one Jewish food, gefilte fish. Where do you catch that, and why doesn't it look like a fish? What is that?
I have to tell you, I have to answer that truthfully. Of all the things on the Jewish menu that I loved, that was the one thing I never would eat. I'm sure I tasted it once or twice.
Oh gosh, no! It just looks so horrible.
It is. I know the grandmothers, at least, made it from fresh fish, but by the time my mom was cooking, she was buying it out of a jar, and it just seemed gross to me.
It does to me too.
You've got so many wonderful recipes in here. You have recipes for the autumn. You have the holiday recipes, like holiday sweet potatoes, and even the fresh cranberry salad. I love cranberries, and what you're adding to it is really great. I've got that recipe. I'm going to use it.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought them up. Well, I'll start with the autumn recipes. The winter squash soup is one of everybody's favorites, and it's so simple and easy to make. I just bake squashes, and I love to use butternut and acorn squash because the acorn is so sweet, it just naturally sweetens the soup. And then all I do is add some spices and some fresh stock to it. So I add a little bit of cumin and coriander, which is just a hint of, it's just an undertone that I think deepens the flavor of vegetarian cooking. And then it's mostly what you're tasting is the cardamom powder and cinnamon, which are both sweet, and the cardamom is sweet and just a tiny bit hot. And then I add some fresh ginger to it, and it's just divine. People love it.
Do you know, we have in our town, we have a lot of restaurants, and every once in a while, like one of the local magazines will have this contest of who's the best restaurant, what's your favorite restaurant, that kind of thing. The Indian restaurant in our town is always at the top of the list. In fact, it's usually number one. And
the Indian restaurant?
Yeah, and yet you would think it'd be something like what, pizza or something like that. It's always the Indian restaurant that's number one. And I haven't gone there yet, Robin. It's just, I feel I don't know. It's one of those things. I'm hard to get out of my comfort zone. I guess
we should explore that. We should go there. You also have savory chickpea pancakes.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's also one of my favorite recipes. I learned it from a great Indian doctor named Smita Naram. who comes to our clinic and was staying in our house, and she taught me to make this really wonderful pancake. It's made from chickpea flour, and it will introduce you to the savory spices of Indian cooking without that heat. That may be one thing that might scare you off, Larry. I don't like cooking with chilies myself, and they're not part of traditional Ayurvedic cuisine. They were introduced to India sometime like in the 15th century, I think. So, but the chickpea pancakes are just delightful. They have a little cumin and coriander. They have cilantro. They have fresh ginger and a little bit of garam masala, which is a kind of Indian spice mixture. Each one is different, but it will have some sweetness. So it will have some cardamom and cinnamon in it, and just the tiniest bit of cayenne. So you just get a little bit of spice, but not much. And you pour each one of these individually like a dosa. If you've been to an Indian restaurant where they serve dosas, you would understand what I mean. And they're crispy and delicious.
You know what? If you sent me to the grocery store to buy the ingredients for khichdi, I wouldn't even know where to start. You have to get some yellow split mung dal. Now, where do you get that? What aisle is that in?
You might not find that. That's true in your regular grocery store. Though Whole Foods sometimes will carry whole mung and sometimes a split mung and earth bear. So some of those kinds of stores will carry them, but you can buy all of this online very easily. One of the great resources for organic is called Banyan Botanicals. So everyone can find that, and I can send you the link if you want to provide it for your listeners.
You know, just for the local folks, right next door to, or behind, I should say, the McDonald's on 200, just the other side of the interstate from where we are, there is an Indian grocery store, a little small store, but there's a grocery store there. I wonder if that's where we would go.
Of course, if you have an Indian store in your locale, absolutely. So they will have split mung, they will have whole mung, they will have all these spices, cumin, coriander, cilantro live is fresh, and they'll have the garam masalas, they'll have turmeric, which is such an important spice in Ayurveda. And, you know, Western nutritionists and scientists have been studying turmeric now for the longest time because it destroys toxins and it is known to have a preventative role in some cancers. It dissolves gallstones. It's used with diabetes in India.
Really?
And it also helps with acne, psoriasis, eczema, all kinds of itching, arthritis, fever, sore throat, and turmeric heals burns. You can put a little turmeric if you burn yourself cooking like I do every once in a while. If I'm rushing around in the kitchen and not paying attention, then you can put a little mixture of honey and turmeric on that burn, and it will keep it from going into infection.
Nice.
And it will heal it.
Can you help me? I have a sentence I need you to explain. Chocolate, when eaten in excess, increases all doshas. I think the doshas is the word. I don't know what that is. What is that?
Oh, okay. So the doshas is a word for the dynamic principles that are operating in everyone's body. So remember, I think I might have said that Ayurveda provides a framework that helps you understand how all these symptoms came together to cause you some disease or whatever. The doshas is a way of explaining that. So these are based on observing the natural world. So the body types that I was talking about earlier are classified around mobility and structure and metabolism. So when I was talking about chocolate, it's kind of complex
so that's a good thing?
On the phone in such a short message.
But is that a good thing? If you increase
I love chocolate.
So if you,
I love chocolate too, but it can. So if you eat a little bit of chocolate, it can be just fine. Especially dark chocolate is known to be better for you. But because all chocolate is spiked with refined sugar, it can upset all of those patterns, the doshas in your body.
Okay, so we don't want that.
and cause some imbalance. Yes.
You do something different than other authors do on cookbooks. You write narratives before the recipes. You have a writing style that reflects your journalistic ability. Plus, you give us an insight into some of your memories.
Yes. So it's part memoir. It's not just a cookbook. So the front part of the book... Yes, go ahead.
Well, what's for lunch? What are you having for lunch today?
Well, I'm having some Hmong Soup for lunch. And Hmong Soup is one of the most important foods on an Ayurvedic diet if you're wanting to detox. And it's also a really great vegetarian protein, and when I make it in the crock pot, it's just so easy to make. So it's a bean soup, like most Americans love bean soups, and the thing about mung beans is that they're just way easier to digest. And then I add a bunch of vegetables to it. So I'll add some kale or chards, sweet potatoes, squash, all those kinds of things I mentioned before. I might make another side dish like some green beans, but that's what I'm having for lunch today.
You also have recipes for New Year's Day that include black-eyed peas. I love them.
Oh, yes. And I have black-eyed pea salad, and I have a black-eyed pea dish where they're stuffed into some blanched chard with some butternut squash and topped with an amazing shiitake mushroom sauce. That's the one of the 2 or 3 project dishes I have in the entire book. Everything else is very easy to cook. And, I didn't want to gloss over Thanksgiving. You mentioned Thanksgiving earlier, and I didn't get around to that. But I have to say, I have some amazing side dishes for Thanksgiving. They are vegetarian, and that way you can please anybody who comes to your table in case there's somebody who doesn't want to eat meat, and they'll still leave very full and happy after the meal. And the favorite, the showstopper at every Thanksgiving meal, and I also make this every Christmas, is my holiday sweet potatoes. So I just bake a bunch of sweet potatoes till they're really nice and very soft, and starting to caramelize just a little bit. And then I make a glazed pecan topping of 1.5 pounds. We actually say pecans in the South.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So 1.5 pounds of pecans that are glazed with ghee, which is clarified butter, and coconut sugar and salt and a lot of cinnamon. And it's so easy to make, and people always leave asking for the recipe.
Oh, it sounds wonderful.
When you switched over from your old diet to your new diet, is there anything from the old diet that you never eat at all anymore? Like sugar? Does sugar completely not make its way into your diet?
I no longer eat white sugar, but I use coconut sugar because it's not refined, so it's not inflammatory in the way that regular table sugar is. Uh-huh. And it also has a lower glycemic index. So when I hit my mid-50s and menopause, I started gaining some weight, and so I was starting to have some blood sugar problems. I lost all that weight since, but that's when I started using coconut sugar, and I think it's much more delicious in baked goods especially. So, and I have also given up gluten. That came much farther in my journey because I found out that I am gluten intolerant. And while a lot of people aren't gluten intolerant, if you're having health problems, especially chronic health problems, chronic pain, because gluten is a heavy, sticky substance, that's why it stretches and keeps breads together, that sort of thing. Okay. It can increase the toxic load in your body, and so it will contribute to some of these health problems. So I'm not saying everyone should become gluten-free, but when you use my recipes for baked goods, you'll find all of my friends say, I can't believe it's gluten-free. That was before somebody wrote cookbooks with that title, and they're still very delicious.
We have a copy of the book. If we have a listener who would like the book, give us a call right now, 622-9622. I'll pick one call at random, and you will get the book. It'll be waiting for you here. The rest of us have to go buy it. I found it on Amazon, and it doesn't even come out yet. It doesn't come out till the 23rd. So you're...
Yes, it came out yesterday.
Oh, it did?
Yesterday was my publishing day, so you can get it on Amazon. And I love to support independent bookstores, so if it's not already in your store, you can also go there and buy it. They'll order it for you.
All right, you got a lot of people wanting this one. Let me pick one at random here, and just real quickly say good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
This is Grace. Thank you.
Grace, you got the book. It'll be waiting for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Grace. You just lit up the thing here, so I think you've got a hit on your hands. Lisa, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Larry and Robin, it's been so much fun. Thanks for having me.
And again, for the listeners, the book is called Sacred and Delicious. Lisa Joy Mitchell. Thank you, Lisa. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. The First Lady Melania Trump's on her way back to Philadelphia to give a speech at a hospital. The first plane she was on this morning had to turn back after 10 minutes.
The reporter on board could see a thin haze of smoke and smell something burning. That smell quickly became stronger. One of the crew members told the reporter it was from a malfunctioning comms unit.